What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the round four AFLW Game Day Squad show brought to you by AFL Fanatics and Game Day Society. I'm joined by Bales, but as you can probably tell, he's not on camera yet. Bales, how you going?
Yeah, good mate. Yeah, just stuck in a bit of traffic and making my way home from being out and about. So yeah, should be home very shortly. So if anyone wants to see my mug on the screen, then I'll be there shortly. But no, I thought we'd jump on and chat because you're back to back, mate. You've got double duty this week. You're obviously jumping on the Fantasy Bros stream for the.
I'm not actually on it. I'm just very keen to watch it, is the thing. And I know a lot of other people are too. So,
Yeah, no, it should be a big one.
because
So
yeah, huge one. 100 subscribers. Probably not much to you, Bales, but it's a lot to us little guys. So big congrats to those guys over there. Um,
yeah,
but
no,
Bales, how was your
Dylan
week?
Stew Yeah,
Oh,
good.
sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, yeah, Dylan and Stu obviously do obviously great work. So anyone that's into the rugby league stuff or Big Bash or any of the stuff that GameDay Squad does, make sure you go and subscribe to it and get them up as much as
100%.
possible. But yeah, in terms of last week, not too bad. I'm not sure exactly in terms of my ranks. Obviously, can't see them right at this second, but I think we've had a couple of solid weeks. Chelsea Randall let me down in my main ones being starter and classic. Put her in as a bit of a pod against GWS, and she dropped I think it was like a 24 or something. Like it was horrific. Like it wasn't very good at all. So having her, but then having some good pods and like an Ali Morfitt, I went for her. Obviously we chatted about it last week, and I ended up taking the punt, and obviously pretty happy with how it worked out. But yeah, just a few sort of other like Chelsea Randall being the main one, letting me down, and meaning I probably couldn't really reap the benefits of that pod. So yeah, not too bad, mate. But I think we're still ranked fairly well. I think top 5 in classic and starter. I think I'm just behind you in starter, mate. I think we're second and third. So talk to us about how you
Yeah.
went in round 3.
Yeah, I had one of my probably my best rounds so far. I went ninth in starter, seventh in classic, sixth in challenger, but third in champion, which I was pretty happy with.
That's a big one, yeah.
Um, yeah, I think my biggest flex this week was fading Bowers. I think that helped me a lot just with her, I guess, lower score. She had a bit of a different role almost this week. So, um, yeah, very happy with that call. And then I just kind of played it safe with a lot of other things. So, um, yeah, pretty
What,
happy. Got a little bit of cash come in, which was incredible.
yeah. So what do you get for third for champion? What do you get?
$100. So that's good, good money, especially AFLW, not the biggest sport on the platform, but to still get $100 for coming third is amazing,
Okay.
and which was quickly turned into $200 worth of packs because they've got the thing where you can double your winnings in packs. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's a very good result.
Yes. No. Very,
So
very happy.
yeah, hopefully we can keep it rolling forward into round four. So looking back at round three, I've just got a few of my, I guess, observations for the round, and feel free to jump in, Bales, at any point. I know you probably can't see. Well, I hope you can't see this because you're still driving. But but obviously probably the biggest talking point of the round was Jazz Garner injured, missed what bit over half a footy. Still scored pretty decently though, considering. I'm guessing most people played her, so it's probably not too much of a concern from last week, but I think it just makes it really interesting for next week or this round, round four, because it kind of opens up the door for who are people going to replace her with. Um, have you already thought about that at this point, or
Yeah, yeah. So, like, I think that it's obviously we don't want to see any players injured, particularly the best players. But I guess the silver lining on Game Day Squad is it means that I think there'll be a bit of variance with the mids this week. So, like, I think we were saying last week how there was probably the 4 midfielders being Riddell, Garner, Noffy, and Bowers as the 4. Whereas I feel like last week probably 2 of them were knocked out of that 4 that you probably play every week, and
yeah, one
Nothing's
hundred
been
percent.
slightly underwhelming that from her starting point. Like she got tagged last week by Beck Beeson for a lot of that game, so that's why her score was a bit lower. So it'd be interesting. I think that with Garner out, there's a few names which I'll be able to screen share my squad later on when we go through our squads. But I've got a few names in there that have made their way into my squad. But I think it's definitely something that people are going to have to think about in terms of which absence, because I think she's out for 2 to 4 weeks. So there'll be a few
Yeah,
weeks
saw that.
until we get her back.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Riddell's a clear number one midfielder this year, um, well ahead of everyone else. But uh, dropping down to number two, like currently it's Hanks, then Benici as second and third ranked midfielders based on average. And then Garner's still in fourth, even after missing half a game. So Garner is still beating Marinoff this season, missing half a game,
Yeah,
which is crazy to me.
yeah,
Yeah. That kind of leads into my next point, and we basically just talked about it. But some big name midfielders underperformed last week in terms of a game day squad output. In terms of their actual roles, they probably still contributed just as much, but who really cares about that? Um, the big one that really annoyed me was the Sydney recruit I had in my side, Gardner. Um,
yeah. You broke
he
her.
talked
You
me
broke
into
her.
playing her.
I messaged you on the Saturday afternoon when they were playing,
Yeah.
and at the start we were sitting there going, "Oh, this is pretty good." Like, I think her and Georgie Sparkus both started really well, and after that they went missing for parts of that game, and only got to, like, I think mid 80s, low 90s scores. And I messaged you and I said you broke Gardner because you
Yeah.
brought her in and she had a low one. So no, she'll be fine. I'm backing her in still, but yeah, lower score last week for that one. It's a cracking game though, that Sydney Geelong game, even though some fancy scores weren't reflective of that.
Yeah, no, 100%. The Sparkus was an interesting one as well because it looked like she had a bit of a niggle. Spent a fair bit of time on the bench, it looked like. Um, I haven't really seen too much like after that game whether there's anything to be concerned about, but apart from what's on paper, I'm a bit worried about playing it now. Um, have you
Yeah, I think
played
she
her at
got.
all this year? I know she's been in my side for most rounds, but she's probably almost been a bit of a unique in some ways.
Yeah, I don't think I've played her. I've played her in like champion or challenger squad when I've had like the platinum, being able to play her there, but I haven't had her in my classic or starter squads yet. I didn't actually see her go off, so I'm not sure exactly what happened there. But I know she did get the tag from Tanya Kennedy, so that's why her score was a bit lower. And it was really, really hard after half time. Like, she was like a real hard clamp down. And so hopefully she responds. A couple of decent matchups upcoming, so she could be one of those names that we consider for Jazz Garner's spot.
Next point on the board here is we need to target the Gold Coast matchup because great that the men's team made finals, incredible work, but the women are just they're struggling and they're just hemorrhaging fantasy points everywhere. Um, I they've got GWS this week, and we'll obviously talk about it in a moment. But geez, some big scores against those guys.
Yeah, exactly. And then we've got one of my pods, because I think we'll go through a few of our pod options at some point in the pod. In my five, I've actually got a GWS midfielder there, so that you might be able to
Yeah,
plug into
wow.
your line this week.
I've actually got two GWS players, but they're not midfielders, so I'm excited to see your list. But the final point, again, we've talked about this already this episode, but midfield variation seems much more viable in 2025. Um, Looking at the midfielder averages, midfielder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So um, the midfielders 2 to 9 are all averaging within 10 points of each other, which that's great for like variation because it means that we can, actually play some matchups rather than just focusing on the best players, which is one of the best parts about the men's version of the game, where, you have the luxury of picking any player effectively if you have the card. So now in the women's game, we're starting to fall into that territory as well.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see who you've picked this week. Once we kind of get the teams up. But let's just jump into the first game of the round. Obviously, we don't have any AFLW until Saturday, which will give us even more time to kind of mess up our squads. But the first game of the round is Melbourne versus Richmond. Now, some interesting Melbourne scores last week. Katie Hoare, 111 points, probably not what enough or a notch where we hoped she would be with the matchup. Hanks went 118 after her good first two rounds. Zanka went 90, and Heath only 45 after missing a lot of the game. Now, do you have any Melbourne players lined up this week? They've got the Richmond matchup. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a few. I've got a few. So I'm still fairly keen on Shelley Heath. So she obviously only played the quarter, but she scored like I think it was like 45 point GameDay squad points and played that midfield role with Nev Purcell out. So obviously ruled out after quarter time with I think an elevated heart rate. I believe that they said that she had a virus throughout the week, and that was what contributed to that. So they just wanted to be on the safe side. So she wasn't listed on the injury report. She should be good to go, and I think if she's good to go, I think she's one of the best defensive options we've got. Like, she's playing a midfield role. She's got access to points. I like her a lot as an option if she is named, which I imagine that she will be. I'm really keen on starting obviously one of Hanks or Hoare this week. I think Hoare lower scored last week, but she played 100% time on ground, which is lovely to see. If she's going to do that every week, that'd be amazing. And just hasn't quite hit that big score yet, but I think it's only a matter of time. And Hanks has been in great form. I think you definitely got to be looking at starting Hanks if you've got her, but she's a fairly rare card on GameDay squad. I haven't seen too many flying around, so if you've got one, you can play. And then I think last week probably showed, I think Zanka's the pick if you're picking one of those Melbourne key forwards, but obviously week to week you could pick both if you like.
What about against the Richmond matchup? Do you think they've got, it's a good matchup for one of those forwards? I've got the data up on the screen, which you probably can't see, but Richmond are -4 for forwards. So they
Yeah,
sit
so
slightly below average.
Yeah, so I think it's good for Zanka because Zanka actually's got a couple of CBAs on the weekend, which she's
Yeah.
done a few games this year. So if she's got a few CBAs, gets up the ground, I think that's a bit better. Whereas I think maybe Harrison could be a little bit trickier for her. But yeah, it'd be an interesting matchup, I think, for sure. And I think on the Richmond side, I think it's pretty much Mon Conti, and that's probably it. And I think Conti's a good play still.
Yeah.
Week to week, she just does everything. She's tackling a lot more this year as well, and this new game style with the transition, I think she's going to suit Mon Conti for the remainder of the year. So I think she's someone that I've definitely got in consideration for my squad this week.
Yeah, that's great. And you've actually just answered one of the questions in the chat, which is how do you think Conti will go against D's? So I'm with you. I think Conti is a good chance against the D's. D's give up +7 on average to midfielders. So that's actually surprising for me, but that's a nice little confidence booster to play Conti. One player who I think can't remember if you said you played him previously. It was Brennan up forward for Richmond. It looks like she's on the injury list this week. That was a query.
Yeah, I think she got a bit of a knock to the hand. I think in the third. I played her in my champion squad with the platinum, and I think she scored all right last week. But I think Melbourne's a pretty difficult matchup. I've just defenders a +1 for Melbourne, but yeah, I think with that hand concern, I'll probably fade for the time being. I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't considering playing her, but I agree. I probably definitely would be playing her this week. So apart from that, yeah, I agree. I can't really see anyone apart from Conti being an option. Moving on to the second game, we have Gold Coast versus GWS. So this is the one that we have a fair bit to talk about, probably later in our point of difference section. But one question we had come through is, where was it? GWS are going much better though, still worth stacking. So is it worth playing so many GWS players against Gold Coast, considering GWS are struggling themselves a little bit? Who we'll save the points of difference for later, but who are you GWS players that you would be kind of locking this round?
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
matchup's just too good, right? You want to be targeting them. So, oh, hang on, you still got me?
Yeah, yeah, gotcha.
Oh, cool. I thought you might have lost me for a sec. Yeah, so I think that the matchup's just too good that I don't want to pass that up. So I'm looking at obviously Zoe Goldsworthy. I think is a lock every week in our forward lines, just with the role that she's
Yeah.
got. But I think Tani Evans this week is a like we saw what Gemma Houghton did last week. I think Tani Evans can go quite well. I think one of my pods that I've got on my list. I probably don't want to say yet because I want to actually go through this pod later on. It's a Giants midfielder that I think you could definitely look at playing as a real pod this week.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's certainly a few options from Giants that you can have a look at. Even Cambridge McCormick, like she's started like
Mhm.
house on fire at the moment, so she's been great. So she's someone I'm also definitely considering.
Yeah, nice. And what about Gold Coast? Is obviously McLaughlin's the only player that's kind of standing out in the top of the averages for each position. Um, is she like still good enough to be in that top 6 or 7 defenders, would you say?
So were you talking about Neve McLaughlin?
Yeah, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, just cut it. Yeah, no, I think Neve McLaughlin. I don't know if you saw much this game, but she actually went to the midfield in the last quarter and looked quite good. So I think that this is a definite play that I think I've actually currently got her in my squad for this week, just with that midfield role. And it'll be interesting to see where she plays this week because she's been playing obviously as a defender, but if she's going into that midfield, I think she got 3 clearances in her first 3 CBAs in the last quarter, which is obviously amazing with 3 clearances. So I think she's someone that I've got in my squad at the moment, and if she's got a midfield role moving forward, even if it's a bit more of like the Brie Conan role, mid defender, I think that's definitely something
Mhm.
I'll be considering.
Yeah. What about Robottom? We saw she had a bit of a better game, kind of nursing a injury late. I think she's on a was she on the query for injury list, or is she going to miss games? I haven't actually seen
I
the
believe
outcome of that one.
I believe she's going to miss games. I think that she was TBC on the injury report, which is obviously not really a
Yeah.
good sign. But yeah, I think she's probably going to miss a few games. And I think even if she wasn't, I wouldn't want to be playing her just with this shoulder injury because I think we've seen with the game shift with the new rule changes this year that the game style is suiting the Ash Riddells, the Laura Gardners, even though she only had that poor one on the weekend. It's suiting those players, and we're even seeing Noffy isn't getting as much of the ball at the moment. So I think Rowbottom, even with the rules, was probably a fade for at least until we saw a score. But with the injury, I think that's just a fade, just in general.
Where does that leave single, do you think, with Rowbottom out? Does that increase singles value in the Gold Coast midfield, or still just steer clear?
It increases it a little bit, but I just think with the way Gold Coast are going at the moment, it's probably Neve McLaughlin and that's it. I reckon.
Yeah. No, I agree, and that's all I've selected this week. Um, jump onto the next game. So after Gold Coast GWS, we have Carlton Western Bulldogs. Anyone take your fancy in this one?
Um, if you give me 2 seconds, I'm actually just actually what I'll do, I'll refresh because I just got home and I've just plugged my mic in, so I'll be able to go on to the mic and
Oh,
stuff. So if you go through your first player, I'll be able to
sweet.
join
Yeah.
in on the camera.
Well, I think the obvious one is Georgia Stathis. I think she seems like she's probably top 3 defenders for me this year. Um, consistently scoring well for us. The only really uh, Bulldogs player that's hang on, sorry, I'll just quickly add you to the stream now that you're back. There we go. Yeah, Georgia Stathis is probably the only one I'd be considering from the Bulldogs, just because of that consistency. Good to see you. Yeah, haircut looks good.
Yeah, no, just had a haircut. But then the wind's blown it around, so it doesn't look. It looks a bit different. But yeah, no, we don't have the cap on at the moment. I might have to go quickly grab it in a sec. But yes, no, we're back.
Beautiful. So apart from Georgia Sappis, any Bulldogs players you're looking at?
Yeah, George Stathis is in there. Alice Edmonds is someone to consider in the ruck. I think she's just been great every week. And I don't know if you saw a stat line at quarter time on the weekend. She had no disposals, 1 mark, 4 tackles, 12 hitouts, and like 40 something points. It was incredible
Yeah.
how, actually, no, it would have been like 39 points, I think it was. It was quite funny
Mhm.
that she got a mark, didn't get a touch though. She must have marked on the siren or something. And probably the
Yep.
most points I've seen in a quarter from someone in game day squad without getting a disposal, which was interesting.
Yeah, I did see that because like when I sort out the averages and stuff, I sort by disposals and she was right down the bottom. And then I was like, how is there someone with like 90 to 100 points sitting down that low? And there's just all those tackles and hitouts. It's crazy. Um,
Yeah.
what about Carlton? Any interest there? I can't think
Yep.
of many.
There's a there's a ruck I want to chat about in the pod list,
Oh
so I'll
yeah,
leave that
cool.
for that one. But there is a ruck that I'm keen on there. But
Yep.
besides that, that's probably it. I think just a ruck from Carlton is where I'm looking. I think Carlton are a team that are playing well, but there's not a lot of fantasy relevant players week to week. I think.
Yeah, the only other one I've got up on the screen is Yaz Dersma, who I thought played all right. The only problem was she just couldn't mark the ball. There were so many times I was watching a
Yeah.
game where she just missed out on the plus sevens because she just like was in the back line, came to her, fumbled it, and then yeah, it's gone. So yeah, that's all good. We'll move on to the next one. Um, So Hawthorn versus St Kilda, I'll run through my players here, and I think at the end we'll touch on the different ruck options because I know we're getting a lot of questions about that this round. But from Hawthorn, Keely Lucas Rod, I think is a no-brainer every week. Just player, don't even think about it. Wales is a tricky one for me this week. Um, St Kilda ruck matchup, even though they don't really have a consistent ruck option themselves, they still just don't concede that many points to the rucks. So it'll be an interesting one to see how she goes this week. Watson for St Kilda, I really like this week, even though she's been well, last week she was very disappointing. The weeks before she was, I'd probably say, underwhelming as opposed to disappointing. But this week, with that plus 14 to defenders that Hawthorn give up, I think that she's pretty much this is her last chance with me. Um, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts on
I
Watson?
think so. I think yeah, it's been frustrating. I didn't watch much of that St Kilda game last week. I was watching the St Kilda Geelong, sorry, not St Kilda, Sydney Geelong game at the same time, and just seeing the score just not tick over. And the first 2 weeks were frustrating because she gave away a few free kicks a week before, and the first week she had a 0 point quarter. So it's just been a real frustrating start to the season. So I don't have her in my squad this week. I know the matchup there is decent. I think that the matchup's decent because the numbers were bumped up last week from the fact that players like Georgia Stathis not playing in defence probably went up a little bit. And a few of the other Dogs defenders who chipped around that sort of a low scoring game. So I'm just a bit worried with Serene Watson. But again, I still have trust that she can turn it around. We saw last year that she's still got the same role. It just the points haven't been flowing as much. So hopefully she can get back on track here.
Yeah, and one person I've got there as a bit of a trap is Wardlaw. Had a good week last week. I
Yeah,
think. Oh, was it last week or the week before? No,
yeah, no,
last week was good.
last week you called that out last week. You said it was a
Yeah.
good play. I don't think you went there in the end, but if you did, you'd be
No,
pretty
I,
happy.
I went there in champion, which is another probably reason
Yeah,
why I actually finished third. So quite happy with that call. But
beautiful.
this week, I think it's going to be the opposite. I don't think she's going to get the opportunities.
Yeah, Hawthorn's tough
Hawthorn have
defense.
had tough defense, low scoring games, playing up in Cairns, which previously it's always been very wet up here when they've played, I think, from memory. So it's not meant to be raining, but wouldn't be surprised if it does.
Yeah.
Got McDonough on the list as well, just as a cheeky maybe pod, but just because St Kilda look like they do give up some more points to forwards, but I'm not super confident about that one. Jumping over to the next one, we've got Sydney versus Fremantle. Ooh, looks like Bales has dropped out, but I'll run through my guys first. This is the interesting game for the Rucks. So we've got obviously Morford versus Strom. Um, who knows what's going to happen? I think that Strom could struggle this game, even though she's been probably the consistent ruck of the competition. Got your back, Bales?
Yep. No, just a connection dropped out for a second there. Well, is it enough for you to fade Strom this week? Because I know there was a question before saying, could you fade Strom this week? I probably couldn't personally. I think that she still doesn't get all of her points in the ruck. She gets it around the ground. And even though Morfitt's been good, she can still give up some points. So, Corey, I want to leave that one for a bit. She's in my pod list, so we'll talk about Harrington shortly. But no, I'm keen. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Do you think Strom is it? She still just you don't fade because of how much better she has been, or is there a
Uh,
conversation?
I think there's a conversation. I'm very tempted to fade her for someone who's on your pod list who might actually not be as much of a pod as you think, maybe.
Oh,
Um,
maybe not.
well, I don't know. I've been on her for the last couple of weeks as well, thinking about it. But I think it's hard. Like I think Warford is a lock for me this week, which is probably a change from last week. Uh, Wales is a maybe, Strom is a maybe, and then yeah, Harrington and maybe Schultz as well is on the radar, but we'll probably get to that a bit later.
Yeah, Morfitt
Uh,
was very good last week. The only thing I'd say with Morfitt is she was up against Geelong, which has been a great matchup all year with Piper Dunlop being the ruck, but she was brilliant,
yeah,
not just in the ruck, but around the ground, getting those. She was getting short plus sixes, which was plus seven in game day squad. So that was good to see.
yeah. What's interesting though is even though Strom in the ruck for Fremantle, they give up +9 to rucks, which is very surprising.
Yeah.
Uh, so it does give me a little bit of interest there. Um, One big thing which I think we should be looking at though is that -14 to mids for Sydney and what that means to Bowers. I
Mm.
faded her last week. I don't know if I'm bringing it back in.
No, I'm fading this week for the matchup, but also the fact that yeah, just she's getting the tackles. Last week she didn't, but normally she has been. But the touches are down. Like she only had like 17 touches last week. It's just we need more than that to get those ceiling scores. And you're seeing like Ash Riddell's just getting 40 touches for fun at the moment, right? Gardner's
Mhm.
still getting a lot of the ball, even though the score was down last week. Even Georgie Sparks last week got a tag, but still had mid 20s in terms of touches. Like to be a premium mid in game day squad, you're needing mid 20s along with tackles because of the amount of mids going 100, 105, 110 plus. So I think until we see the touches up, I think I'm fading Bowers, which I didn't think I'd be saying this early in the year. I didn't think I'd be saying it really this year at all. I thought she was going to
Mhm.
come back in, but I just think we flagged it with Newton, McCarthy, those other mids in there that we were just is Bowers going to be able to get all those points. And I don't want to overreact after one real poor score because she still turned up in her first two, and she was on 43 game day squad points at quarter time last week. It was just after that she just didn't touch it. So I think it's a watch and wait this week, and I think we'll be able to probably get a bit more of a read next week.
Yeah, it was almost like because I think she started on Ghana, didn't she? And then she moved to Riddell, and it
Yes.
kind of looked like when she went to Riddell, I guess she was probably sitting outside the contest a little bit more than she probably would have been on Ghana, which then meant she was just outside the tackles. So it's probably not a consistent problem we have to look at, but then will the same thing happen with Gardner this week? Probably. Well, I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'm not bringing it back in. Um, yeah, obviously there's Sydney locks up forward. Probably don't need to talk about them too much anymore. Malloy and Ham, I think, is now a lock for me.
Yeah,
Don't know about you.
agreed. Yep, agreed.
Yeah, yeah. And Gardner's probably should be a lock, but my my head or my heart is saying no.
Yeah,
So
because
I don't
I think
know.
you're probably worried that if you have her again and she puts up another dud score, you're like, I've owned her for the 2 games that she's been poor. So, no, I think
Yeah,
she'll respond. We saw what Riddell did last week, so I think Gardner can do something similar.
yeah. Now jumping over to Adelaide versus Brisbane.
Big game, this one.
Um, yeah, good game. Um, Conan for Brisbane, I think, is becoming a bit of a lock down defence. Marinoff, what are you doing with her? She's got to stay, but like, is there anything in the back of your mind that's saying maybe look at more unique options?
Nah, no, not for me. Like hasn't been as big a start, but I think that's just because of our expectations of Noffy averaging well over 140, 150 in game day squad. She got tagged last week. She still tonned up, but she obviously was a lower ton. I think it was like 110, 115 in the end, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm still backing her in. I think maybe a Brie Conan or a Kathy Zvark will maybe try and go towards Noffy a little bit, but I think this is a game where it's actually going to be quite a contested game. So I think that there's going to be a lot of tackles here, which we know Noffy can really capitalize on. So I'm still backing her in, Noffy. But this is a game where I'm probably trying to avoid a lot of options. Right? I got Cone in defense. I've got Noffy in midfield, but I'm saying I'm fading Gould this week just because of the matchup. The matchup's really difficult. I think I'm obviously Anderson. I'm not picking this year just at the moment because of
Yeah.
just hasn't looked the same. And then Anne Hatchard was good last week. Good to see Hatchie back in form. So we'll see if maybe she's an option after this week. So I think that these rules I thought would have suited her, and it was good last week. But this week in Brisbane, just not the matchup I'm wanting to target. So yeah, for me, probably steering clear a lot besides Noffy and Conan. What about you?
Yeah, no, exactly the same. I reckon there will be one week where I fade off this season. Unless things change, there will be a week where I don't play her. Calling it now, but it's not this week. And yeah, Conan's been in my side every week. I think probably just sit there.
Yeah, I like how Ganners has just asked if it's a contested game. Does it make Anderson better? And he's like, never mind, because we were just literally answering as he typed it in, mate. So you were thinking alike along that there.
Yeah. Now jumping over to the next one, North versus Collingwood. Um, how do you think the Garner injury affects Riddell at all?
Uh, no, I think that there will be teams that will probably then go, okay, well, Garner's not there, so let's put a little bit more attention into Riddell. But I think, like Riddell's been amazing to start the year, and I just think she'll keep going. There, maybe Benici plays sort of on her, not a tagging role, but just plays alongside her. But I'm pretty comfortable still, obviously, with Riddell and putting as much salary as possible in each competition. I think this is a game where we've got a few, obviously, North options like Emma Carney, I think, comes back into our game day squads. It was pretty much a case of when, not if. And she returned low game time, scored really well. I think 99 points in 60% game time, which is fantastic. So I think she probably comes back in for us. But yeah, is there any other North players that you're looking at targeting?
Right. Just O'Loughlin as well up front. I think could
Yep.
could be solid this week. Now, what about Collingwood though? Um, Benici has probably deserved a spot in our side all round, but she's never been there. When does she start coming into consideration?
Probably next week because I don't want to.
Yes.
Probably not for North Melbourne. I just don't want to. Look, it's still -7 on the points scored against there, so I don't want to go this week. Probably steering clear of all the Collingwood players because like Barnett's been great as well, but just with North this week, I don't really want to take the chance because I just don't see a ceiling for either of them this week. But I think after this week, I think you can definitely look at playing Benici. She's been fantastic in that midfield. And then, yeah, Barnett's obviously been very, very good. And I think if Fredericks is out, though, because there's a bit of a like talk about her with the injury she got last week, if she was to miss, I think that makes Barnett a good play regardless because she'll be the solo ruck. So something to look at with team sheets.
That was going to be my question. Like, if Frederick is out, but I still don't know if I'd play her. Just because even solo ruck, I feel like a lot of her points are coming from like the you know contested, uncontested marks, which probably won't be coming against North. So I think I'll still be holding off her. Um, Other than that, though, I can't really see myself. In fact, I'm not starting any Collingwood players now that I think about it. Um, all right, moving on. Essendon, Geelong, Pressparkers battle. Uh, who do you like in this one?
Well, there's an Essendon mid again that's on my pod list, so I'll chat about her shortly. But yeah, I think George Pressparkers is still fine. I think in this matchup, I think this is I know it's a -11 matchup there, but when you look at I think Essendon, they played Richmond up in Alice Springs, sorry, Darwin, and then I'm trying to think what the other two matchups were, but I don't think they were very relevant in terms of midfield matchups. So I think yeah, GWS, but Parker got injured really early. And Goldsworthy was playing forward essentially the whole game. I'm just trying to think what their second matchup was for the Bombers. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I think the midfield, that's probably a little bit of an outlier, the matchup there. So I think it's still a good matchup. I think Ash Maloney showed last week she's still one of the best forward options that we've got. So I'm really
Yeah,
keen on playing her.
it was West Coast round two.
West Coast, yes. I think, did Ella Roberts have a good game there? I think, but that
No,
was...
that was the bad game she had. So she went good, bad, good.
Okay. So, mate, okay, that's a bit interesting then. But yeah, so George Plus, I think, is still an option. I don't know if there'll be a tag necessarily this week, but yeah, I think her and Maloney are the two ones from Geelong there. Anyone from Geelong or even Essendon you're looking at?
Well, probably the midfield who I suspect might be on your pods list is probably going to be coming in for me. Maddie Prasparkas, I don't know. I do have a prize card of her. So I probably, and I have a special card slot that needs to be filled now that Garner's out. So she's definitely crossed my mind a lot this week. And I just worry that she doesn't seem to be scoring as high as other players, I guess, in that area. So
It's just the tackles and marks are just not there. She's getting a lot of the ball still, but just not really sort of racking it up with the other stats.
yeah,
Whereas we've seen the other mids can get plenty. Like we saw, I know she's not a midfielder on game day squad, but Ella Heads, who played a little bit of midfield for Port and then on the wing for a lot of it as well on the weekend, she only had 16 touches, but because she had 7 marks and 8 tackles, that's what bumps your score up,
yeah,
right? So if we need these mids that can get those marks and or at least get a lot of tackles to really be in our squads.
yeah, yeah. And I think Maloney for Geelong's probably the other one, like you said, it's like a premium forward now. Again,
Yeah.
uh, um, all right. Just conscious of the time here. We'll jump into the next one. Or in fact, the last game of the round is West Coast versus Port Adelaide. Port had an incredible week last week, but can we read into that too much?
Yeah, I don't think we probably can in a lot of instances there. They had obviously a big win, and I think Ella Heads is probably the one that stocks rised a bit, even though
Mm-hmm.
it was an easy matchup, but still the role was pretty good. I think there's a few CBAs obviously on the wing defense, but they were looking to use her. So I don't know if I've got her in my squad this week, except maybe I've got her in a challenger squad or a champion, but she's someone to consider, I think, because I think we faded her after week one. We didn't love the role, and wasn't a good score against North. But then since then has been pretty good. I think Ash Woodland didn't have an amazing game last week, but she obviously still did enough as a forward, and I think she's still got a pretty good role. And I think the West Coast matchup might even suit her a bit better than the Gold Coast matchup because they probably just kicked over her head a lot, to be honest, in that game. Matilda Schultz was amazing. Probably going to be clearly a high scorer of the year. I still think she's in the mix as probably the second rate you can put in your game day squad, but yeah, I've probably got a couple of names still ahead of her, but she's been fantastic to start the season. And on West Coast side, I think there's still the West Coast duo of Thomas and Swanson on playing there. But I want to ask you, is Ella Roberts, she's obviously an amazing player. Is she make an appearance in your squad this week? Because she's been great.
He's been great. I just don't know if I can risk it with the fluctuation in her scoring that we've kind of seen this season and from previous seasons as well. So I don't think it's like an anomaly. I just don't know. Like an 80 for one of your premium midfielders is a weak killer. So I am not currently considering her, but if she strings like 2 or 3 good scores together, then I'll definitely be looking at her because she's an incredible player. It just doesn't necessarily always translate into, I guess, game day points.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, well, I think she's currently sitting in my squad, I believe, at the moment, in the midfield. I do worry I might there's like a Maria Maloney go to her this week and try and put a bit of attention to her, because I think if Lauren Arnell's looking at it, going, we're up against West Coast, who are we going to stop? It's Ella Roberts, right? So that's the one
Yeah.
worry with Ella Roberts week to week, is that she is the clear and obvious tag target at West Coast. There's not a lot of teams that have got run with players, whereas I think Maria Maloney could be someone that does a job. So that's something I'll be considering for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. Beautiful. Now we'll jump into, I think the pods for round 4. And I'm curious to see how your pod list compares to mine. I've written mine down here. Number 1, who is coming into my squad this week, is Naz Cowan from Essendon in the midfield. Good matchup, playing well. Looks like has adapted well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, she's also in my list. So I think that she's someone that again is one of those mids that she tackles, but she can also get those touches around the ground in transition. Right, she can do everything. Runs obviously in the Riddell Gardner sort of mold. So I think she's someone that she's probably the number one mid at Essendon in terms of relevance for our game. So I think she's passed Maddie Prasparkas for like point scoring. She's obviously, I think she's turned up in every game so far this season. And the thing is, as well, it's almost like a perfect situation, right? Think of it for those that play men's fantasy for Brisbane, right? You're looking at Lockie Neal and Josh Dunkley. Lockie Neal didn't score more points than Dunkley, but he's also the number one tag target. Maddie Prasparkas doesn't score more points than Nanscorn, but is the number one tag target. So it's a perfect situation for Nanscorn to benefit. And I think she's someone that I think we definitely got to be looking at in our midfields.
100%. Next we've got the here is a bit of a tricky one, but just not tricky, interesting one, but just chasing that Gold Coast matchup. Obviously, Evans, I don't think is a pod. So uh, Garnett in the forward line, what was it, 3 years ago? She was, I think, almost the top averaging forward in the comp for like
Yep.
fantasy points. Obviously dropped down a little bit since, but last week had a decent score as well. 91 last week.
He played a bit in defence as well, which was interesting.
So I don't necessarily think it's I wouldn't be starting her over Evans, but if you're looking to capitalize on that matchup, I think it's someone to be considered. Uh, Next up, someone I talked about in my when we're talking about the matchup is McDonough versus St Kilda. Just in terms of, I know that Hawthorn haven't been having massive scores on the board, but someone I think could capitalise on St Kilda. I don't see St Kilda as the great side they were in the first couple of rounds. And I say that as a St Kilda supporter. So I think Hawthorn will dominate this game, and I think there might be a few goals there.
Yep.
Point 4, I've not necessarily a pod, but dropping Bowers, which I thought might have been a pod, but might actually be a common thing. But the last one here I've got is O'Dowd versus the Gold Coast Rocks. We saw how easy they were to push around last week. It just looks like there's insane amounts of points to be had in that area. What do you think of that?
I like it if Lauren Bella's not named.
If Lauren Bella's named, that probably puts the line through O'Dowd. But then we see O'Dowd doesn't score points with hitouts. It's the extra mid around the ground. So you could still definitely look there regardless of if Bella comes in or not. But I think I'd be a lot more keen if Bella wasn't named, because then you've got the points for hitouts, but then also what she does around the ground, along with Grace Koch, maybe back for GOS this week. And she was the number one ruck before she went out with injury. And O'Dowd, I think, was playing a few CBAs as a midfielder. So something I think team sheets will probably do it. But I think it's certainly a good point to make, though, if a few things go away on team sheets, because the matchup is there.
Yeah, nice. And what about your pods? I didn't have them to put up on the screen, but I'm curious. Like, you've hinted at them a lot, so I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, so George, I haven't got them in sort of in terms of order, but obviously I've just got the five here. So I got Georgia Nanscorn. Obviously, we mentioned her against Geelong this week. I think she's the number one mid at Essendon to be targeting week to week. So I think she's a good option. I do have Bree Harrington there with Jess Good out for 2 weeks. Bree Harrington was, or formerly for those that played a few years ago, Bree Moody was the top ruck. She was the Mim Strom. She was the clear number one ruck in GameDay squad and all the other formats. And with Jess Good out for 2 weeks, Bree Harrington will go back to that role, I would imagine, unless they name someone I don't expect. So she's someone I think that I've definitely got my eyes on this week to be plugging into my squad. So I really like her. I've got a GOS midfielder, obviously targeting that match. I've got Beck Beeson as a bit of a pod there. So no Elise Parker. We know what Gold Coast are giving up to these mids, and Beck Beeson won't be like Dowrick where she'll spend time forward. It'll be purely as that midfielder being the captain. So I think she's someone that could be a real pod. So I don't think a lot of people are going to go there. She doesn't have the name of a Prosparkis or a Roberts or someone like that may be in and around the top 5-6 mids you put in every week, but could be someone that puts up a good score. I've got Eliza McNamara here as well as another pod against Richmond. We see that she can have some massive scores when the matchup's right, and I think this matchup against Richmond could be one where she could really benefit. So I've got her there. And with Garner out, I was thinking who could be next up to fill that void of point scoring for North Melbourne in that midfield. And I think Mia King is someone that I'm probably not going to play, but someone, if you want to go real pod, she could be that real benefiting player from that. So she's someone to consider if you want to go real poddy. That's why I've got her sort of bottom of the list, because I think her and McNamara are real pods. But I think the top three, you can definitely play a couple. Whereas I think the bottom two, if you want to go real pod, they're probably where I'd go to. So they're probably the 5 I'm looking at this week.
Beautiful. And just forgot to mention, but the entry for the wheel is happening again this week, and the entries are now closed. So Alyssa's in the chat there again, compiling. I think she's been talking to everyone about the entry terms. So she'll get that ready, and then after we talk about our teams, we'll spin the wheel, and hopefully we'll give some good stuff away. But this is my team for the round. It's interesting. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. The main thing is my midfield just looks so strange compared to what I normally play every week.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Like
No, it looks good. It looks good. I just like the way you just like, I don't love it, and you've picked the squad, but I don't love it. It's just looks different. But no, it's good. There's nothing really I can probably pick out. There are a lot of players I've got, obviously the same as well. I think I've got 2 different defenders, 2 different mids, 1 different ruck, and 1 different forward. So fairly similar. So I like all the picks, and the picks that I don't have that you've got have certainly been in the mix for me.
Yeah. What about, so you different ruck? Who have you got? Because I don't have your team here to share, but unless you want to bring it up, or
I've got the screen share. If you want me to pop it up on the screen now, so we can have a look at it when it does pop up on the screen. Amazing. There we go. So yes, this is the starter squad. So yes, I do have Bree Harrington as my ruck at the moment there. I'm pretty keen if she's solo ruck. So I'll just make sure on team sheets that no one else comes in unexpected, but that's there. But yeah, defense, I think we got fairly similar. I think that the only change I'd be making is if I can get my hands on a Shelley Heath before the start of the round, she'll probably come in for Probably one of Conan or Swanson. Probably Swanson. But I do like sort of all those defenders anyway. I do have Tyler Hanks in the midfield there, being one of the different mids. I think she's been in great form with the richer matchup there. Ella Roberts I've got there, but I have thought about Nanscorn. That's been the one. It's Roberts or Nanscorn on the bench for me. And then the forward line, don't think you had Eden Zanker in your squad. I think that was the difference
No.
there. But you played her
Yeah.
obviously last week, but Richmond this week, I think that she can have another solid score once again.
Yeah, I think I've got Lachlan in over Zanka, but apart from that, we're the same. Yeah.
So
Very
yeah,
nice. So what we'll do, just because I know a lot of people are going to be jumping over to the Fantasy Bros stream, which probably would have just started, we'll quickly spin the wheel just to see if we get any big prizes this week. The wheel is effectively the same apart from what was claimed last week. And there's a few entries here, so I'll just spin it.
oh, Izzy and actually gets it.
See, congratulations. We'll see
I
what
like
you
how
would.
we got I like how we got two different wheels to go. Okay, who gets it? But then what prize do you get? I like this. It's good.
Yeah. Now, jumping over to the prize wheel, there's two all-star cards on there. One of them we talked about in Hatchet, who potentially could be a little
Back into some form.
spicy,
Yep.
unique pick there for you. We'll spin it. There's also a 9-player unique pack on there, which is it's just gone past.
Oh
Oh, speak of the dev. Oh
no,
no.
Silver Georgia Stathis. Still a valuable card with that midfield role at the moment. So you can plug that into
Yeah.
contender or your classic. No, contender. I think Silver's aren't in classic, are they? Or Silver's in classic? No, they are in classic. Yeah, no, they're in
They're
classic.
in
So
classic, yeah.
yeah, contender and classic. So that'll be a valuable one there. So congrats, Maxi.
Yeah, congrats on that. If you're over on the Discord, just jump in the DMs and I'll flick it over to you before the round starts.
Oh, we're just doing one.
So,
We're just doing one. I wasn't sure if we're
just
doing one
one
or
this
two.
week, yeah. Nah, two last week to get it firing, but only one this week, just because I'm a bit nervous about giving away all of my All-Star cards in one round. That would be terrifying. But Bales, thanks for joining me again. Any
Yeah,
final pieces of wisdom?
Yep. No, thanks, mate. Apologies, obviously, for the interruption at the start with obviously being off camera, but hopefully it came through good for everyone. But yeah, no, just if you haven't signed up for GameDay Squad, use the code BalesDT when you sign up. You get some free packs to get your club started along with the starter packs you get. But the packs you get your silver rarities and up, so they'll help you with your contender, classic, champion, challenge, or whatever comp you want. And obviously GameDay Squad are not only with AFLW, but they've got AFL finals and NRL finals, which got updated today on the app, which is great. So we've got finals for them starting tomorrow and Friday and over the weekend, which is good. And Premier League in full swing. We'll have the Big Bash starting soon, the NBL starting soon. So plenty of things to get your teeth stuck into on GameDay Squad. So yeah, make sure you sign up at gamedaysquad.com.au and it's free to play. So that's the best thing about it. And you can find me at BalesDT across socials and us at AFL Fantasy Fans on X as well. And good luck to everyone this week.
Beautiful. And you can find me over on the Game Day Society on YouTube if you're watching on Bale's stream, Instagram, Game Day Society, XGD Society, just because Game Day Society was taken. And yeah, that's about it. So thanks for joining us. And I'll probably see most of you over on Fantasy Bros stream. So good luck to everyone on that wheel. If you've seen it in the chat, there's a legend in there, which is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Looking forward to it.
Anyway,
Make sure you guys go tune into the Fantasy Bros.
lovely. And best of luck this round. So